So good morning and welcome to the launch of the Stigma Free Atlantic. I'm Vicki Phillips with the Mental Health Association, and I'm here today to kind of open the program up and talk a little bit about what we've been doing. Yesterday I looked back at the progression of how we got here, and I was thinking that in 2021 I had been working on a mental health committee in Atlantic City, and Laura Rogers from Jewish Family Services suggested that I talk to Laurie Smith. And I looked up yesterday, it was November 11th of 2021 that we actually talked and said, hey, why don't we see what we're both doing and see if we could merge our efforts, and we did. And we spoke about talking about the birth of Stigma Free Atlantic Coalition, and that's how we got here. So I'd like to first introduce our other founding members of our collaborative, Kathy Quish and Brian Wilson. You're both over there. You want to just put your hands up and say hello. And Gretchen Halfpenny is right next to them. And then Laurie Smith is over here. And myself. So people across New Jersey have been busy establishing stigma-free communities. But what are they really? And how can you become part of this movement? It's difficult to ignore certain ongoing cultural narratives that are problematic at best and harmful at worst. They isolate and divide us as communities and as individuals. Our Stigma-Free Atlantic goal is to create a compassionate and inclusive spaces that help facilitate a more positive and proactive narrative surrounding stigma. However, living stigma-free is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. Becoming a designated stigma-free community, whether you are here today representing a school, an organization, a business, a faith-based group, or a civic organization, it's a process. So what does this process look like? Well, the first step is education, and education is why we're starting here today. It's my pleasure, hold on one second. I now have the pleasure of welcoming our District 2 Commissioner, Maureen Kern. Besides working with our Mental Health Advisory Committee, Maureen holds the distinction of being elected the very first woman to hold the position of Commissioner Vice Chair in Atlantic County, 182-year history. Maureen, welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I just have to give a little shout out to my St. Joseph's group back here from Summers Point. Always great to see everyone there. And as well to Senator Palestine. Welcome on behalf of our county executive, Denny Levinson, and the Board of County Commissioners. And thank you all for being here and working so hard for a stigma-free county. As commissioners, one of our main priorities is ensuring that Atlantic County residents have access to services. One of those near and dear to my heart is ensuring that we are helping our most vulnerable populations, including those who are experiencing mental health issues. In August, as the chair of the Board of Commissioners, we passed a resolution in support of the establishment of a stigma-free communities throughout Atlantic County. It is therefore such a pleasure to be here to support this year's launch and to have the opportunity to learn more from all of you. I have been fortunate to be the Commissioner representative on the Atlantic County Mental Health Advisory Board. Their commitment is nothing but amazing. Through their knowledge and pure kindness and caring for those who need assistance. I learned a great deal from these individuals. But first, I had to figure out all the acronyms, right? Wow. As part of the board, I was also given the opportunity to be part of a course called Mental Health First Aid. And I carry this. I actually keep one at my desk at work and one at home because it was very, very informative. I was so moved and taken by the content of this course, I actually took it twice. The reality is that mental health problems are more common than heart disease, lung disease, and cancer all combined. Because of the stigma and discrimination associated with mental health, it is neither accurate nor fair to define people by their perceived conditions. Stigma is one of the biggest barriers to individuals seeking treatment, and therefore is one of the biggest barriers to recovery. Thank you for being committed to the dialogue continuing to build and promote awareness in building a stigma-free community. As we all look to engage others in the topic, and to create a stigma-free county, dialogue plays an important role. And being ambassadors of dialogue is a hat we each should be wearing proudly as we educate the residents of our great county. I welcome the opportunity this morning to hear about what things we are doing right in Atlantic County and what things we still need to work on as it impacts our ability to create a stigma-free county. With that, I thank you all in this room for all you do, which is critical for our society. And you will get quite a bit from this launch today, from what I understand. So thank you all.
Thank you, Maureen. Now I'm going to introduce our senator, we were lucky that Senator Vincent Palestino could be here today. So if you could want to come up and say a few words.
Thanks, Vicki, and thanks to all of you. Tremendous to see all of you here. Assemblywoman Swift was supposed to be representing our team today, but unfortunately she's a little under the weather. Her kids are a little under the weather, so I said I would come out because it was important for one of us to be here. But Assemblyman Guardian, Assemblywoman Swift, and I, of course, are working very, very hard on some of these topics. Such a critical time in our history as we deal with some of these challenges, especially after COVID and the pandemic. The challenges that we face are greater than ever. And so I just applaud all of you for putting this together, applaud all of you for being here. Just a couple of the things we are doing at our level. I'll point out Jamie Costello is here representing Sheriff Eric Scheffler. Hi, Jamie. You saw me, for those of you that follow politics, saw us work very, very hard on getting the Atlantic County prosecutor in place, Will Reynolds, who is a brigantine guy, local guy, been here his entire life. Now lives in Absecon, but it was very important to get the Atlantic County prosecutor in place, which we have done, in conjunction with Jamie and Eric Scheffler at the sheriff's office. You think, Atlantic County prosecutor and the sheriff, they're law enforcement. What do they have to do with mental health? Well, those guys are committed to helping people. Yes, there are some times where people need to deal with the justice system, unfortunately. But so many of our people now need assistance with mental health, with addiction, with homelessness, with all of the challenges we face. The prosecutor, the sheriff, and I have been going out, and you're going to see Hope Exists really ramp up. We have been meeting with some of the casino owners. Of course, this is a struggle in Atlantic City. We have been meeting with the individual operators to try to get them to understand how important it is to help provide funding for some of these issues, which they're stepping up and doing. I can report we have met with Borgata, we have met with Golden Nugget, we have met with Hard Rock, and just to throw out there, Jamie and I and the sheriff and the prosecutor sat down with Joe Gingoli, who is a former addict recovering for 37 years, a guy who really, really cares about this area. We sat down at lunch, we talked about this topic that you guys are talking about here today, and Joe Gingoli said immediately, I'll commit $100,000. That is the kind of support that you are seeing as it relates to these issues now. And that is going to continue. All of the operators are stepping up and really taking a focus of this. And I'll also mention Councilwoman Dunstan is here. Of course, we work very closely with the City of Atlantic City. You can clap for Councilwoman Dunstan. Working very closely with the City of Atlantic City on these issues. Of course, we see many of the challenges present themselves in Atlantic City because you have the 24/7 buildings that are open all the time over there, the homelessness, the panhandling, the issues over there. We're always going to deal with, but one of the things we found and one of the things we talk about, people are proud and people don't always want to ask for help, and that goes back to the stigma-free issue we're talking about today. But what Hope Exists will do is go to the people. You're seeing the prosecutors, seeing the sheriff. You're seeing them go to the people who need assistance to try to get them the help they need. And so that is something that we are committed to, and we are going to continue, because we're going to go to the people. And when the sheriff, touches them, for those of you who have ever talked to Sheriff Scheffler, has a passion for this. Once he gets somebody, touches them, talks to them, he doesn't let them go. He stays on it, and he's going to have them as part of his Hope Exists Foundation for as long as they need help. Just one other topic that we're working on, obviously, you know, as I said, sometimes people need help from need the justice system, but many people don't. And so we are working very hard on a mental health court. You saw some of the things going on statewide, but a mental health court where people who have mental health challenges can go to a mental health court and get the assistance they need that do not need the justice system. We're going to get that established in the state of New Jersey so that we can get people the help they need without having to involve them in the justice system. And so we're working very hard on legislation here for that. You're seeing some other things statewide. We're modeling ours off of the system in California. And I think at the end of the day, you're going to see the legislators in the state come together, and you're going to see a mental health court. Hopefully we're the pilot program here in Atlantic County, and hopefully everyone here will be involved in that, because if we can be the pilot program here in Atlantic County, get it established, get it going, again, we're going to get people into that mental health court, hopefully get them on a path where we get them the help they need. So again, I want to applaud all of you for doing this. Challenges are great right now, as you know. We stand here ready, willing, and able to work with all of you as we move forward and try to get people the assistance, the help they need, and make sure that there are no barriers from stigmas or for any issues. People need help, we want to give it to them. So thank you very much for having me. Unfortunately, I had to change the program because I do have something else to get to, but really wanted to be here just to have an opportunity to say hello and talk to you and hopefully work together moving forward. So thank you very much.
Before you scoot out of the room, I'm going to take the 2 minutes to say the opportunities that are happening now. When you mentioned the prosecutor's office coming on board, the sheriff's office, we're so happy to have them part of CIT New Jersey and CIT Atlantic, which is really training law enforcement and mental health workers to work together to solve some of the neediest problems in our community. So,
absolutely.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so moving on to the program. I messed up our papers and okay, today it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Rebecca Leon. Rebecca is the Executive Director of the Mental Health Association in Passaic County, where she has worked for over 2 decades in a variety of roles, shaping the creation and management of a variety of innovative community-based support and advocacy services. Before joining MHA, Rebecca worked both in partial care programs and in programs for asserted community treatment, or PAC teams. She has been featured speaker at numerous conferences, expert panels, and workshops across the state and other states as well. She's served as a moderator on a 5-year research grant which studied through Temple University. She assisted in the study of community inclusion of individuals with psychiatric disabilities. Over the past 13 years, she's worked with the Passaic County Crisis Intervention Task Force, where she has provided several blocks of instruction to law enforcement and mental health providers. Rebecca is a disaster crisis response counselor. We almost needed you after all this rain. She's a disaster response team leader and has served as co-chair of the Passaic County Professional Advisory Committee. For the past 34 years, Rebecca has followed her passion and been fortunate to collaborate with other colleagues who share in her vision that recovery is possible and opportunities can be made when people come together. It's my pleasure to introduce Rebecca. All you do is left, right? Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay, so if you're like me and you had that morning scramble to get out of bed and you kind of turned over a little bit and said, I can give myself 5 more minutes, oh, you are my people. Okay, that being said, before I start to speak with you, and this will be a conversation, I'm going to ask you all to stand up for a second, if you wouldn't mind. Okay. And we're going to take a second, and this is something I learned in one of my mental health first aid trainings. And it's something that young people do to get their focus in. So I want you to really focus in on what we're doing today. So we're going to do something called rainbow breathing. Anybody ever hear that? Oh, okay, so there aren't too many educators in the room. So what I'd like you to do is as you're taking a deep breath, you're going to bring your arms up over your head like a rainbow. Everybody ready? And breathe in. Up. And let it out. And one more time. Up. And let it out. Okay. And everybody can do a little shimmy and fidget before we start sitting. Much better. I don't know about you, but to this day, I can't sit still. Have a seat. Okay, everybody's ready. Good.
Is that loud enough for you?
Is it loud enough for them?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Hopefully we got our fidgets out. Everybody feel free to get up and get coffee while I'm presenting. And I am so thrilled to be here and to see what is happening in Atlantic County. I know there are some amazing initiatives going on that specifically try to look at the area of stigma. Not just with mental illness and substance use disorders, but with all those various things that occur when someone views you in a negative way, simply because you have a distinguishing characteristic or personal trait that is thought to be, or actually is, a disadvantage, a negative stereotype. Unfortunately, negative attitudes and beliefs towards people who have mental health conditions or substance abuse conditions are very common. I'm pausing here because I was really stunned to see this piece of information. I didn't realize it. Being in the field of mental health, I thought mental illness was one of the top stigmatizing conditions. In fact, it turns out that illicit drug use is the most stigmatized health condition in the world, with alcohol use disorder not far behind, at 4th in the world. Among a list of 18 of the most stigmatized conditions internationally, these illicit drug use disorder is number 1. Importantly, the degree of stigma is related to the perceived cost of the condition and the perceived control over the condition. If you think about what we know about substance use, there are a lot of antiquated and inaccurate beliefs that addiction is a moral failing, instead of what we know it to be, which is a chronic, treatable disease from which individuals can recover and continue to lead healthy lives. So we stigmatize people more when we perceive that, 1, they contributed to their condition, and 2, that they're failing to address it. If you think that is somewhat accurate, can you just raise your hand? That sometimes we stigmatize because we think people contribute to their condition? Okay. And then we also look at mental illness, which is not a character defect. There are many reasons why people develop mental illness. Some are genetic or biological. Some are the result of childhood trauma, and there's been a lot of work done in that space. The adverse childhood experiences. You'll see that more and more coming up in the literature, in our language, and in our community. Some stem from environmental injustice or violence, and sometimes we just simply don't know what causes these conditions. Regardless of the reason, these are health problems like cancer, arthritis, and diabetes. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, about 1 in 4 or 5 adults has a diagnosable mental disorder in any given year. So I don't know what the estimate of how many people are here today.
115.
115 people, plus your presenters, plus the amazing hotel staff. Hi there. We appreciate you and the coffee that you bring. Can you tell I used to work for a hotel? I'm a fan. Okay. So that means in this room, how many people are we talking about that might have a mental illness? Anybody good at math? 20 some odd, 23, 24, 25. Once we're caffeinated, we'll have the right answer. But approximately 25 people in this room alone may be coping with a mental health condition or a substance use condition. So look around at the faces in this room. We are all members of the community. We come from different walks of life, different socioeconomic statuses, different experiences. Yet we know that only half of all Americans with a serious mental illness seek treatment. So that's 50% seek treatment. And I would say that's pretty generous. Oftentimes people don't seek treatment for substance use or mental health conditions until there's a crisis. Although failure to seek treatment can be attributed to a variety of factors such as lack of money or insurance, availability of providers, I think we here in this room know that stigma is one of the chief deterrents. Those of us that work in either of these fields say it's really critical to have no wrong door into services. Well, it may not be the wrong door or the right door, but often that door is closed. So why does society look at people with mental illness or substance use differently? What makes it different from diabetes, heart disease, and others? Any thoughts? Yes?
It's hard to test, harder to test.
Harder to test for? Okay. Yes?
Fear.
Fear. A very base level fear about coming forward, about admitting, about acknowledging. I see people nodding their heads. Yes?
People are afraid of consequences of being labeled.
Absolutely. And what are some of the consequences of being labeled or identified? Yes?
Disability.
Disability. Can't get disability resources if you need them. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry, you were just moving? Something for coffee. Sorry about that. Yes?
It impact housing.
Housing. Cultural. Very important. Yes?
Relationships.
Could hurt your relationships. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yes?
I was going to say, I know in the military, if you seek treatment for mental health issues, it can be labeled as a sign of weakness.
Yes. So not only are you fearful about coming forward, you're also fearing a loss of services, relationships, privilege, and access, and ability to interact with others. So the stigma related to mental health impacts us. It's the fear and misunderstanding that often lead to prejudice against people with mental illness and substance use conditions, even among service providers. As a service provider, I know that sometimes we look differently at people for different conditions, for different reasons they come through the door. And we address that so that we can work with somebody. Because remember, we're human too. We come to our roles with all our personal baggage and background. And just because you're someone who's in the helping profession doesn't mean you don't have those. It means you need to face them head on in order to be effective in your work. It is, well, I guess if this stigma is going on and we know it's going on, how is it perpetuated? In fact, we know that individuals are portrayed with mental illness in the media as violent, unable to contribute to society, unsafe. Somebody said fear before. Sometimes society at large fears what's different. And there's also an avoidance of individuals who have mental health conditions, substance use conditions, co-occurring conditions such as homelessness. They're different, they're other, they're not me behind my safe four walls. And also something very critical are the messages that are given to young people. We want to start very, very young, because even at a very young age, stigma can exist. We need to teach the children language, give them words for how they're feeling, and give them access to safe adults in their lives. Fortunately, we know that things are changing regarding awareness. Many famous individuals have disclosed their mental health struggles, and some celebrities have used their status to educate the public about mental health and addiction. And I love that I look around the room and I keep seeing people nodding every time I strike a chord for what relates to them or what they know. If I were on your side, I'd be nodding at almost every comment here. I know that individuals who have disclosed depression, such as Robert Borston. He's a White House aide who disclosed he has bipolar disorder. Mariah Carey, Charles Dickens, Tipper Gore after her son's car accident. See, not all mental health conditions are ongoing and debilitating. People live their lives every day, doing well with periods of time where they might be struggling, but they're still working, still raising families, still contributing to their communities. Amy Grant, Abraham Lincoln, Rosie O'Donnell, Oprah Winfrey, Mike Wallace, Tennessee Williams, Elton John, James Taylor, and sadly Robin Williams, who completed suicide. Individuals who've disclosed substance abuse. A.J. McLean from the Backstreet Boys. Okay, any Backstreet fans? Oh. Come on, you. Oh, yes! There's all these closet Backstreet Boys fans, but you know you're in your car. At the stoplight, with people looking in, and I just look at them. Don't you wish you were listening to this too? Ben Affleck. Aaron Sorkin, the creator of West Wing. Matthew Perry from Friends. Robert Downey Jr. and Martin Sheen. And those who don't understand stigma, mental health, or substance use say, well, why would these people have any reason to be depressed? Any reason to have anxiety, which, by the way, are the top 2 mental health conditions? They're famous. They have money. They have influence. They're on TV. They have great clothes. That's how we know mental health and substance use disorders don't discriminate. So where did this come from? One of the ways that New Jersey is trying to address it is through what you're starting up now, are these stigma-free zones. And the idea for the campaign came from, it's happened in Paramus, and it was developed out of a need from a concerned citizen from Paramus called Mary Ann Uzi. And Mary Ann, through her work with Care Plus New Jersey, became aware of an effort in Hoboken to organize a stigma-free zone back in 2011. And seeing how firsthand stigma and fear prevent people from seeking help, as well as of observing the positive outcomes of those who do receive treatment, she made it her personal mission to gather the community members. Bless you. Gather the community members and business members together and bring a public awareness initiative to Paramus. And when I say a variety of members, we're talking about very similar to the people who are in this room. The mayor, the councilmen, advocates, family members, peers, local businesses, schools, health providers. The list of who you could bring to the table is endless. Why? Because we know that mental health, substance use, and stigma affects everyone in one way or another. One thing that I found in our involvement, my organization's involvement, is that all the other stigma-free zones throughout New Jersey are so willing to help. And I've never reached out and asked for something that nobody shared. So I'd like to share why I'm involved in this. And this, I don't know if you can see it very well. This is my brother, Terry. This is when he was in Vietnam. And he had 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. He was 18 years older than me when I was born. And at age 1, my family moved to Argentina for my father's work. He was on leave between tours, and he came to Argentina for 2 weeks. I was at that point 1.5. He didn't speak to anybody in the family, according to my parents and my older siblings. And he took care of me that whole time. He fed me, he changed my diapers, he bathed me, he slept on the floor next to my crib. He even ate his food next to me, with me in his arms. And he didn't speak to anybody that whole 2 weeks. When the 2 weeks was up, he flew back to the United States and he redeployed in a different role in the military. And when he returned, he never talked about his time in the service, never participated in veterans events, never shared a picture of his time in the service. In fact, I didn't see these pictures until my brother passed away. How was he? I also found numerous medals and awards that he received. How was he affected? Well, he returned with a heavy Pall Mall cigarette smoking habit and always had a Budweiser in his hand. He remained a bachelor even after having several long-term relationships. He was always very loving and caring to us, and he had 4 younger siblings. He lived on his own, and when we would visit, he would always have devil dogs and pizza for us. There was nothing else in the refrigerator, but he always had that for us. I guess we never considered him an alcoholic because we didn't see him every day. I guess we learned that he never drove drunk or drank more than 1 or 2 beers in our presence. However, it was clear he had drinking binges. One day we went to his apartment and there was a beer can pyramid on the wall. And that was created the night before with his empty beer cans. He never missed work. He was well liked by his coworkers, and he was promoted several times over his 30-year career. He never had a DUI or trouble with the law. Often his heavy drinking occurred when he was alone at home or on evenings and weekends. What we never recognized was that he lived this lifestyle because he was coping with symptoms of PTSD, including anxiety, depression, difficulty forming and maintaining close relationships, sleep difficulties, and self-medicating with alcohol. And I include cigarettes in this too. He never sought formal treatment, but rather formed relationships with others in similar situations, living a particular lifestyle. That meant hanging out with groups that drank a lot. Lived a perceived carefree single lifestyle. It's great. You go to the bar every night, you hang out with your friends, you have a good time. Well, he hit rock bottom during the time he was a member of the yacht club. He was at a party, he was drunk, he fell off a boat in between 2 boats and banged his head and almost drowned. After this, he stopped drinking and smoking, and he took swimming classes at the Y at age 56. Pretty awesome, right? A few years later, sadly, he was diagnosed with multiple forms of cancer, and what a difference in how that was handled. Remember, he never talked about his service, he never talked about his depression, he never shared about his drinking. But when he developed cancer, it was a different story. He told his friends, he told his coworkers. We had fundraisers. Everyone rallied around with support and help. People brought food and offered rides to appointments. But when someone's struggling with a mental health or substance use disorder, no one brings a casserole. We don't hold fundraisers often. We don't often offer to help with rides or a caretaking role if needed. And why is that? Why is that?
We don't know.
What's the big S word that we're talking about here today?
Stigma.
Sometimes stigma. It affects people and their communities all the time. It can lead to discrimination which can be obvious and direct, such as somebody making a negative remark. Or on the other hand, it may be unintentional or subtle, such as having someone avoid you because the person assumes that you could be unstable, violent, or dangerous. You may even judge yourself if you're a person living with one of these conditions. It seriously affects the well-being of those who experience it. It affects them while they're experiencing the problem, while they're in treatment, while they're healing, and even when the issue is a distant memory, meaning, hey, I've been sober for 10 years now. I have not been experiencing symptoms of my bipolar disorder for 8 years now. The label, the name, still carries them. People may look at them differently, attribute behaviors to the substance or to the mental health symptoms. You know what? People actually do get angry or frustrated or cry or scream, not related to substance use or mental illness, but just to being a human being who needs to have an outlet. But when you have one of these conditions, oftentimes your behavior's more scrutinized than others. As a result of this, people sometimes aren't willing to seek treatment. And that is something that's really a challenge that we as a community can face. And I want to share with you some of the ways that you, as members of a stigma-free zone, or even just members of your own community, can do things very straightforward to help. This is my brother walking, not to, but away from his second tour of duty. All limbs, all legs came out and came home. So one of the ways that we can get out there is by making this color, which you see all over the room, this fluorescent green. Don't do what I did. I got involved with the Clifton Stigma Free and I was so excited about it, and I had my t-shirt on and I had my things in the back, and I'm driving back to my office and I see the back of a person wearing one of these fluorescent t-shirts. And I was all excited. I was in Clifton and I said, yes, another Clifton Stigma Free person. We gave away the t-shirts and now he's wearing it proudly. So I pulled up. Yes, Bob, I did pull up and lurked. That's me. It was the DPW guy. So while we will appreciate your enthusiasm after this, don't do what I did. It's a little creepy, but it's my creepy. So one way you can get the word out is by hosting an information table. Get people used to seeing Atlantic County or whatever town or city you're from. Get them used to seeing this screen and get them asking questions about it. Next. Another way is, you see this little pup here and this little girl? That's appealing to young people, to families. Who likes puppies and kittens? All right, I know that's low and a little sneaky, but we'll take it.
Not below our level.
Never below our level. As a matter of fact, we might have snuck some puppies in here. That's okay, that's fine. So this happened to be, the one with the puppy and the dog happened to be in Pompton Lakes. I went to an event, 480 people stopped at our table. While there were parades, games, fundraisers. Why? Because we made our table fun. We had hats, we had streamers, we had information, and we didn't ram the idea of mental health or mental illness down people's throat. We talked about wellness and well-being, because don't we all want that? Okay. Okay, the other, and it's again shameless, is get pictures with your politicians. This is our lovely mayor, Mayor Jimmy Anzaldi, who I've known since I was about 5 years old. He tried to run from us. It didn't work. We caught up and we got pictures and he carried the sign. He also approved big street signs at the entrances to our town. So getting your legislators, your leadership, your community members, your houses of worship on board can make a huge difference. We also, Vicki mentions crisis intervention training, CIT. Crisis intervention training, which as she said is a 40-hour class taught to first responders, law enforcement, community stakeholders, and others, is a great opportunity to get the stigma-free word out. Even if you can't get there to make a presentation, send up some literature about person-first language. Let them know a stigma-free zone exists. Invite them to the table, because I promise you, your first responders, your mental health workers, your substance use workers need these support services themselves. And in their own field, it is very stigmatized. Okay, law enforcement, they're afraid to come forward and say they're dealing with something. First responders, mental health workers, those of us who are supposed to help others are often most at risk. So here, this is one of our CIT classes. And down here, this is a mental health first aid class. We combine community members and law enforcement to train in mental health first aid together. Not so much the class is great, but what happens on coffee break, bagel time, lunchtime, that's where the real work begins, because that's where you get real. This is Wayne, and we love Wayne. And when I went there to do a presentation, they said, we got our t-shirt color wrong. So they came back yellow, and I proudly wore one of their t-shirts, and I said, that's okay, because we don't want to stigmatize people who are colorblind. So they proudly took a mental health first aid course, and there I am on the end. I'm holding up my t-shirt, it's not in my color wheel. And then, shamelessly, the puppies. On the left here is a little friend that we know well from the Tri-State Canine Response Team, which is a group of individuals who are involved with mental health, with wellness, who, along with their canine partners, respond to crisis events across the United States. They go to schools, they support children, they support community members, and they volunteer their time. And Janice Campbell, who coordinates that program, had these bandanas created, stamped out stigma with a paw print. Okay, say it with me. Aww.
And if you go to an Atlantic CIT class, they'll be present with puppies.
Oh.
2 classes coming up before the end of the year.
They're coming to my class in 3 weeks. And then back to the other one, they came up to crisis intervention team training to let the officers know that they volunteer their time and will come and provide support if there's a funeral, a death, a community disaster or event where we need support. And there's the Hawthorne Canine, and this was not planned. That dog, I think that might be Logan, immediately went to him, and I swear he did not have treats in his pocket. He knew. Another way is to get children and get into the schools. Don't offer curriculum, offer a lesson. If it's a curriculum, it has to go through all the different channels. If it's a lesson, you can bring it to the superintendent, you can bring it to the Board of Education, you're adding something. All schools need to have social emotional learning goals. And a stigma-free or acceptance or wellness event is perfectly within that realm. So we go into the school and we offer a program with a duck puppet. And we use stories that children are familiar with to give children some feeling words for when they have these big feelings that they don't know how to handle. And ultimately we want them to identify a trusted adult that they can go to. So these are paper bag puppets of this character called I See Hope. And there's one kid holding the I See Hope puppet. So I leave you with this. Oh, who's laughing? Because you are my people. Can everybody see what that says? Okay, it's a picture of a Chihuahua with a really jaunty expression on his face. And as you go forth and do your stigma-free work, it says, when someone tells you not to stir the pot, cue jaunty Chihuahua expression, but you know you're going to stir the pot. I welcome you to stir the pot in Atlantic County. Go forth with your work, and remember, you can certainly make a difference. Show up, wear the t-shirt, reach out to your local groups, anybody that you partner with, And remember, you don't have to do all the heavy lifting. Often there are organizations such as the Mental Health Association in Atlantic County, shameless plug, that are already doing events, that are going to health fairs, wellness fairs, community events. See if you can join them. If you're a part of a Rotary, Knights of Columbus, a house of worship, maybe you can post something on the bulletin board. If you're a legislator or a community leader, invite somebody from Stigma Free to just share what this green sign that they're going to start seeing all over the place really means and how they can get involved. So thank you so much for letting me speak this morning. I am so thrilled for you, and I think you're going to do an amazing, amazing job with your stigma-free work. Thank you.
And we'll make sure the shirts are green, not yellow.
No judgment or stigma.
That's all right. Kind of funny it is Wayne, though. You have to. Okay, so next up is Laurie Smith, who is with is the Community Initiatives Coordinator for Atlantic Prevention Resources, and she's going to tell us all about the great giveaways that you're going to leave here with today and all of our toolkits that have been done. So, Laurie.
First, too, I would like to say, and as she's sitting down, because I know she's thanking us and getting the chance and having the microphone, but no one has actually, thanked Vicki yet and all of her hard work. So let's give her a round of applause. And it's funny, she looks back. I was taking off a kind of self-care afternoon in a walk in the woods when we had our first conversation on the phone. And I remember walking around trying to get signal, saying, Vicki, hang on, let me find, a place in the woods I can talk to you. So, and that's what began this great, project and everything we're doing today. So I'm just going to go over with you a few things talking about, as you leave today, some of the materials you'll be getting. And some are up around the room. You'll see these 6 posters on the easels. We do have copies of these posters for you that we encourage you to take back to your offices and your organizations. We have yard signs that are around through the windows, and we actually have these stakes for them. And we have a lot more, so if you end up not being able to get, as many as you would like today, please reach out and let us know. We also have stickers. There are some bags of information. There is information out on the table from all the different organizations that were a part of putting this together. So I will just mention first too, because a lot of times when we think of stigma, and we know we're kind of defining this today, and we think of people not seeking treatment, coming from the prevention side of substance use, it is people not even seeking information. And I can't tell you how many times, and those of you who are here with schools will understand this, we have a table at a back to school night. And the parents come by and they kind of look down and they see it's drug and alcohol information. They're like, oh no, that's okay. They don't need that information. And it's just this stigma that, what if I take this information, or if I show up to a drug or alcohol event, people are gonna think that my child has a problem. People are automatically gonna assume. And this is just the prevention part. And with all the information as parents that we seek, drug and alcohol information should be at the top of that list. And unfortunately, it's the stigma that is keeping us away. So just going through the toolkits today, you'll see these as you leave, and I want to just go through what's available in that information. We took this toolkits that Bergen County had begun years ago, and then multiple counties have them now, and we actually did them for, oh, thank you. I did not realize you were doing that. Do you want me to use this?
No, yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is working. So we actually did a toolkit for different sectors within the county. So we have a municipality toolkit that many of the municipalities, and even if they're not here today, we will get to them. We have one for business and civic organizations, one specifically for faith-based organizations, one for schools, and then also one specifically for colleges and universities. And I have to give a shout out today to Laurie Dutton and the peer education classes from Stockton here today. They're the drug and alcohol peer educator. Today, and taking off. We did kind of push the free breakfast, but this was their class time, so they're happy to be coming out today. So we appreciate your presence and for all of you to be here. So the next part of each toolkit, and a lot of the toolkits have similar information, and then just some was edited, and then there are some additions for the different sectors. The county executive did, Denny Levinson did do a letter that is also in there. The purpose, which is that this is a community guide. It's a user-friendly guide on how to set up a campaign, whether it's within your business, within your town, within your school, and the key components of that campaign. We also talk about the prevalence, and we have 2 pages in each toolkit listed with substance use disorder and stigma and also mental health disorder facts. And it's funny, when Rebecca was asking the number, it's not, the math is my worst subject, so it's not that I was a math genius, but I actually had just on the calculator done the math, because saying that 1 in 5 adults have a diagnosable mental health disorder in this room today, I'm going to ask very quickly, and I'm already standing, so can I get 22 people to stand? Just start standing up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 5 more, 19, 20, 21, 22. What?
Substance use too?
No, we're going to do that one separate.
Okay.
23, one more. Look around this room. That is 23 people in this room. That is the 1 in 5. All right, so now just hold on, still stand. I need 7 of you to sit down. 7 of you to sit down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the amount for substance use in this group. So you may all sit down. I appreciate that. But you know, when you're doing this work, it's good to have that, you know, visual, because a lot of people think, not my family, oh, I do know someone maybe. But when they start to see that how prevalent this is in our community and in our organizations, how can we not help? How could we not want to make sure that person is getting the care and the treatment that they need? So the next part of the toolkits actually does talk about the initiative, and that we want everyone involved and who to recruit within your organizations and your schools to do this work. The stigma-free resolution, which we appreciate, was passed August 2nd of this year by the county commissioners, declaring Atlantic County stigma-free. And then also it goes into different education that you could have, and a lot of these programs and services are free. So talking first, the Stigma-Free Collaborative, this group, and I know there are others that we were talking with earlier in 2021 and discussing, who offer programs about stigma, and they will come out and do a presentation for you. We have the adult, youth, and mental health first aid training that is offered within our county. The QPR training, which is question, persuade, refer. Those trainings are offered here in our county. We also have mental health first aid training specifically for veterans being done. So if you have a group of veterans, there is training for them. First responder training, and I know there is one coming up October 17th. Our coalition was invited, and I'm sure we could get you an invite if you would like to attend that training going on at Stockton. And then also substance use disorder presentations, Atlantic Prevention Resources and our community coalition, JTAC, can certainly come out and do community presentations for you. The toolkit then goes into action steps, just ideas. It's not a tell-all, everybody has to do this, but it's just ideas for you and your organization. We want you to first identify an ambassador, somebody in your community or your organization who is very passionate about the work they do. It doesn't have to be somebody with a mental health or substance use disorder. Maybe they have a family member, maybe they just know of the problem and want to do the work. Then we also want you to form a collaborative. Get a group together then. Move on from there. 1 person plus 5, plus 10, plus 20. Okay, do the work, get the group together, and then there's an action plan. And we would ask everybody to sign. There is a pledge in the booklets, so we want to get these pledges signed. Know that the community is doing the work, and then submit the information to the collaborative. We encourage you to hold town hall meetings, public forums, recovery walks, mental health disorder walks. Add information to your website. How easy and cheap and free it is when you already have a website to post that stigma-free information on your website. And even just the wonderful colored green logo, okay, mentioning that you're stigma-free. Then next up, just talking about talking points. A lot of times we hear from people, what do I say? I don't know what to tell people. Well, there, we did that for you. There's a list of talking points in those guides on what to discuss when you go and have a meeting or you're in front of the press. And then also, language matters. As Rebecca mentioned in hers, several times, language does matter, and there's several pages in the toolkits regarding language and what is the correct language to use. So when we say a person living with a disability, instead of saying somebody who's disabled or handicapped, instead of saying somebody committed suicide, we say they died by suicide. And instead of calling somebody an addict or a druggie, we say they are a person with a substance use disorder. So again, just some actions. There is the pledge in there. There are the promotional materials. There's a list where we may have some. We have a lot of the yard signs. We have posters. In the future, we will order more. So definitely reach out to us or go and get, your own town's information and get your town, your municipality put up on those yard signs. There's also information regarding sample press materials. There's a sample PSA. There's sample messaging for faith-based organizations. And then there's also, and I know specifically in the school toolkit, there are additional activities listed, which are just regarding different activities that the schools can do, within their districts, and how to get even elementary and younger students involved. All of the toolkits are online, and oh, sorry about that, the picture is covering it, but you'll see, you'll have information today. It's on the Atlantic County website. Thank you to Kathy Quish. They were all uploaded to the website yesterday. So all of the toolkits can be found there. And last but not least, talking about this, and one thing I found Michelle Obama had said, we should make it clear that getting help isn't a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. And as Rebecca mentioned today, if it's a person with cancer, we all rally around that person. So we need to now rally around the people who have a substance use disorder or have a mental health disorder and help them get the treatment that they need. And again, Helen Keller now said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So again, this is a collaborative, meaning all of us together, and we hope you can join us too. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we've kept you on time and doing well on the time here. Yes, all right. So on your tables, there are QR codes for all you young technological people. And there's an old-fashioned evaluation if you want to fill it out. We really appreciate some feedback. As Laurie said, we are a collaborative that are looking for more people to join. We just started the founding work of this. We need more people to make this happen in our county. So if you're in this room, we figure you're going to be part of this and help us grow this across the county. I want to thank everybody for attending today, and on your way out, we're going to have lots of materials for you to take with you, and we also have the toolkits on some thumb drives. So those of you that want to take it back, you can have a thumb drive to take the whole kit back. So thank you for coming.